Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Mikowski, and I'm one of the founders of Kubuntu Focus. With me today is Erich Eickmeyer,
Hi there.
who leads packaging and community integration. He's also the project manager of Ubuntu Studio, and although his cape is hidden, he is a master of the universe for Ubuntu. No hyperbole there at all. Today we're talking about Linux desktops. Now, before we go any further, let me say this up front. This is not for everyone. If you are a consumer who depends on MS Office or the Adobe Suite for the majority of your job, or you just don't want to be that guy sending messages in green bubbles to your friends, then you are probably better served by some other OS. However, if you are a researcher in robotics or machine learning or a DevOps manager, content creator using world-class tools like Blender, or a developer for supercomputers or the web or autonomous vehicles or IoT devices, then a Linux desktop can be far more productive than just about anything else. The key, though, to finding this nirvana is ensuring that your system is properly curated. A great example is Kubuntu, which is used by developers all across Google. Let me show you a video that illustrates how we create a highly curated system and how you can too.
The first component of a curated system we want to discuss is the welcome wizard. Even if it's just you, writing a tool to initialize your system on the first sign-in is almost always a great idea. First, it will help you document and install your system much better, and the barrier to entry is very low. Second, if for any reason you need to reproduce your system, like when you add a new device or your old one goes in for service, this tool will save you hours. And when your team grows, your wizard can be constantly used and enhanced by everyone. Great subjects to cover are where users can find repositories, how to connect to the internet or shared drives, how to change encryption passphrases or the user avatar, and how to install the preferred IDE. It's also a great way to introduce users to the apps they will want to use. Ironically, we think you should work to minimize how much you need to add to the Welcome Wizard in the first place. For example, instead of directing users to configure apps or optimizing their GPU, configure the apps for them before they even sign in. Instead of directing users on how to optimally install software, create packages to make this obvious and easy without instructions. We will talk about these and many other opportunities later. However, some first-run guidance will always be needed, so don't miss this great opportunity to get yourself or your team off to a great start.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Now, let's bring it back over to this side so we can talk about how shared tools can liberate you so you can focus on what you do best. Now, not surprisingly, we suggest you create and share tools within your team instead of having every developer hack their own. If you're running Linux and you wrote these tools well, then you'll be able to use them directly in production with little or no change. And that's a big incentive with a surprisingly large payoff oftentimes. What these tools accomplish may vary a bit from team to team, but here are some that we have found especially useful. A GCC version selector, which is real handy when you have libraries which require a specific version of the compiler to work. A power profile selector, a video tearing preventer, a keyboard color selector, a command line bookmarking tool, and a system check and repair tool. All of these people love and use every day, and it saves them time. Now, robust and complete tools require lots of planning and coordination to maximize their benefits. Here are the attributes we think all shared tools should have. They should have a unique icon and be easily found in the Start menu. They should catch and handle errors well. They should work within a GUI or with a command line interface. They should install packages inline if needed. They should be developed with source control management and test-driven development to ensure quality and prevent regressions. And of course, big surprise, right? They should be distributed and updated using the package system. Now, we know this is a big undertaking, but the payoff can be fantastic. We suggest you start small and build as you go.
The next step that can really make a difference is optimizing for the hardware. Linux generally gets a bad rap for desktop hardware compatibility, probably because so many people try to install it on incompatible hardware. Those who try this don't lose a computer, but they do gain a hobby. Don't do that. Instead, buy hardware that is supported by reputable vendors, and your experience can be far better than other platforms. Consider what you can do. You can upgrade the memory and disks after you buy your computer with a single standard Phillips screwdriver. You won't need to pay a 400% markup on RAM or disks. Get NVIDIA RTX GPUs that are up to 30 times faster than proprietary Unix developer vendors. Get lots of ports without the dongles and adapters. USB-C, USB-A, DisplayPort, HDMI, card readers, and Ethernet ports are good examples. You will need to tune the system to take optimal advantage of your hardware. Standardize and package these adjustments to ensure that solutions are reproducible. Here are some areas to tackle. Ensure suspend and resume work quickly and reliably. Use NVIDIA buffering to eliminate artifacts and identify and fix apps that can stall the process. Double the battery life with power profiles that strategically disable hungry power processes but aren't missed in mobile mode, like disk snapshots or keyboard LEDs. Pre-configure popular peripherals like Logitech keyboards, mice, and trackballs.
Well, alrighty, Eric. Thank you. Let's bring that back over here, and we can now talk about third-party repositories and why their setup is important or indeed critical in a lot of cases. So first, let's talk about what a third-party repository is. It's effectively a server that a vendor like Amazon or Google sets up, and that server sends us their software that runs on our computer. We say we want to coordinate those repositories because we want to make sure that we're using the official servers, that we have the right keys for those servers, and that we're getting the right software for the version of the distribution that we're using. Commercial software vendors typically only support LTS. So do yourself a favor and stay on LTS. Well, next up, let's talk about best-in-class apps. We suggest you identify best-in-class apps before anyone invests too much time into any one option. And you should keep records about why these apps were selected. Good criteria include fit for a particular task you're looking to accomplish, the capability in general of the app, its popularity, its support, its stability, its usability, and its documentation. There are certain apps out there that we might call super apps, and these are apps that have taken on an ecosystem of their own, and there are vast repositories of documentation and how-to videos that can get you through pretty much any situation. I consider LibreOffice or GIMP or even KDN Live or Blender to be super apps. We do suggest that you share your list with a web page or a spreadsheet document. And remember that any list should be a living document that's frequently updated. If you work with GPU compute, you know how hard and confusing setting up the libraries can be. Do this once and create a package to maintain it moving forward. That's our advice. You will need to actively manage the package selections to properly support GPU libraries alongside deep learning libraries. I'm not trying to be purposely vague, but this is a very short presentation and I can't go into the detail without blowing our time limit. Another interesting angle of this is that sometimes it's only possible to install software using language-specific systems such as pip or npm. And this is typically true with software under rapid and active development, just like deep learning toolkits. So if you find yourself in this situation, you can't reproduce your system using a standard package in the normal fashion. However, you can create an installer app that can be managed through the normal package system, and that installer app will create a known state that you're looking to achieve. So if you look at our deep learning installer app that installs between 4 and 6 different deep learning frameworks, that embodies a whole bunch of information and a whole bunch of research, and that is managed through the package system. Let's talk about theming and optimizing apps. As we talked about before, we'd rather not add content to a welcome wizard or write a how-to instructing users on how they might optimize and theme their apps. Instead, we want these things to just work out of the box. This approach is best for everyone, and we do it for dozens of apps. For example, we should be able to install the Brave browser, and when we open it, we should find the theme matches the system theme, and the About GPU page is pre-configured for optimal GPU use. We suggest you too focus on just works before exploring use of wizards or documentation. All right, let's talk about guided solutions. At least that's what it says up there. There we go, up there in the slide. So first, what's a guided solution? Well, a guided solution is simply a how-to document, but we don't call them how-to documents because that's an insult to guided solutions, and I'll explain why. When you find a how-to guide on the web, which we've probably all done numerous times, even in the last week, if not month, oftentimes it's not the first how-to guide we're going to use, and it's not the last to help resolve an issue. And that's because how-to guides suffer from these problems. They're not for our hardware. They're not for our circumstance. They're too old, or they're incomplete for one reason or another. Some how-to guides exist on forums, and the joy of reading forums is that oftentimes the forum discussion will start with a problem, and then there'll be a bunch of bad suggestions to start out with, and then it'll move towards a solution. And the fun part is going out there and picking out, oh, this part of this response is correct, but this part isn't. And this part looks correct over here, but this guy is wrong, and this gal is right. And so you've got all these data points to pick from, and it's kind of rolling the bones here on getting things right. So that's the reason why we coined the term guided solution, because all those variables are removed. And when you create documents for yourself and your team, you should try to do the same, because it's just so much more valuable and such a more rewarding experience to have a solution that's effective immediately. So there you have it. We hope this quick overview on curating systems got you thinking. The steps we discussed aren't unusual or unique to Linux, although some steps may require more effort, while others, such as ensuring compatibility with deployment environments, are pretty much eliminated. We'd be happy to answer any questions in the few minutes we have remaining. Thank you.